So it's just, it just comes back every year. It's just a great little place in the yard. Bees love it. I've got a lot of frogs in it, American green frogs, American bullfrogs, stuff like that, a lot of dragonflies. So it's great for wildlife. It's great for the local pollinators and things like that to give them a boost. They need the help they can get now. And this is one of my larger 300-gallon stock ponds that I like to use, Rubbermaid stock ponds, which I will tell you, you will have to seal them. They will leak. You will have to silicone the drain. You'll have to do some work on it. It will not hold water from the factory. I've got 6 of them, and not one of them has been watertight from the beginning. So, but I have these. I run some of these on homemade filters, which is a barrel that I use, a food-grade barrel that pumps water into it from the pond, and I've got 150 pounds of lava rock inside the barrel to work as a bacteria catch, and it works as a settling chamber too. Settles the poop and all that, and debris settles in the bottom of the barrel before it gets pumped back into the pond, so it helps with water clarity and all that. And so this is some of the stuff that has, here's my guy that's eating my goldfish when they showed up. So we've got box turtles that have showed up, and other things. The pond comets, I just bred and got rid of the breeding group, but I have babies of. And I got some trapdoor snails from Japan, and ram's horn snails, and I got plecos breeding in ponds and things. So pretty much anything you can do inside in the summer, you can almost throw outside, as long as you can keep the predators out. And what I really like is the plants. That's what really got me into this, is I like growing plants, and my aquarium hobby has now leaned more towards plants than fish, honestly. And I like to try and do it low tech, so these work out really good. I love the flowers that you get. The lilies are amazing. And the duckweed is free fish food for a lot of the goldfish and things like that. The barbs eat duckweed. A lot of things like the duckweed. So that's a great one to keep around. I've got, this is a crinkle sword actually, growing in one of my ponds. That the crinkle sword is probably this big now. And it's got babies coming off where it's flowered. So you can grow aquarium plants in your ponds too. It's a great way. You get it going in the beginning of the summer, end of summer, when it's temperatures drop, you've got a tank full of plants at the end of the summer. So just go put in your fish tank and fill it up. And it's nice when you can go just put together your own planted tank all at once with a bunch of plants at once and just plant it there and be done. So this is one of my homemade rain barrel filters that just, again, there's a pump that just pumps water into the top of it. I drill the hole in the side, just gravity feeds water back into the top. So this is some of my fancy fantails.
What size pump do you run that filter, or what do you run on that?
I'm not sure the size of it. I think it pumps, I think it's 1,000 gallons an hour if I have it correct, if I remember. Or no, I'm sorry, these are Shibukins. These are some of what you just got. So it works great, the fish do great. It's a great way to breed fish. It's what got me into goldfish really, was wanting to keep fish. I'm limited on my house space, so I wanted to bring my hobby outside. Goldfish was something I could keep outside and not have to bring inside and worry about every year, what am I gonna do with it when it gets cold? And I was told fancy fantail goldfish wouldn't live all year outside. I've been doing it for 5 years now, so it worked great for me. That's the big white ones are the parents that all those guys come from. Just 2 fish. And I have two 300-gallon ponds full of shabooks.
Oh.
2 fish. So this is a little demonstration of how I like to pot stuff for plants, for ponds, to show you guys how I like to do it, to keep the dirt out of the pond water column. Oh, no, I guess that didn't
You
go
have
in
a
there.
wrong mouse.
Where am I clicking this play thing here? Okay.
Bottom.
So this is a baby crinkle sword. My mother crinkle sword shot off some runners and it died and lost all its main leaves, and I left a clump of like 3 little babies. So I replanted this and stuck it in a pond. So this is the stuff that I use to do it. Some rocks in the bottom to keep it weighted down, because I don't know what it is, they love to float. You think a bunch of dirt that's got water in it would not float, they will float. I don't know why. So I just throw a few rocks in the bottom to keep it down. And this is what I use for all of my Dirta tank. This is what I use the Dirta tank. It's some of the cheapest stuff you can buy. It doesn't have pine in it. It's organic, so I've used it for years and I've had no problems with invertebrates or anything. If I had some osmocote, I would actually put osmocote in here at this point, but I was out at this time when I filmed this, so I didn't have any. But you can find it in the gardening center of any of your stores. At Walmart, you can probably has osmocote in their gardening center. And I use the one that's for fruits and vegetables. I would just sprinkle a little of that in there to give it some time-release fertilizer. But I also like the Scots, because the Scots is chunky and has wood in it. And the wood breaks down over time, which composts, which gives you a long-term feeding. I hear people say you're supposed to pull the sticks out, but I don't go for that. I want the composting. I want that long-term beneficial. So then I cap it with some clay sand or pool filter sand. And I honestly have to say I've switched over to clay sand because the pool filter sand hasn't been worth the money anymore. It's been dirtier than the pool sand, clay sand I've been buying, so I'm not spending the money on it anymore. And then I just slowly lower it into the pond, because if you go fast, once the water hits it, it'll break that sand cap. So just drop it in, ease it in, let it fill up, and then let it sink in, and that's it. Pond plant. And now at the end of the summer, that'll be a giant plant, and I can pull that in, put it in an aquarium, and have a full aquarium with one plant, pretty much. And this is a pond I've got with a 300-gallon pond that's got angels in it right now, growing out.
Why do you avoid a potting mix that's got a pine component to it?
Pine is bad for fish. Pine will kill fish.
Fair enough.
So I don't know if anybody knows that. True. That's with like driftwood too, cedar driftwood. Unless it's old, you don't want any kind of sap. If you can smell pine on your driftwood, don't put it in the tank.
It also raises your acidity pretty quickly, and it's a quick spike.
Yeah.
This is an added note. Even pine can be bad for a lot of reptiles for bedding.
Yes.
A lot of people suggest not to use pine with reptiles.
So these guys have been out for a few weeks now, and they've really enjoyed being in the 300-gallon pond. This is when I first set it up, so it didn't have a whole lot of stuff going on in it. So I also like to use these little greenhouses. You can find them on Amazon for like $200. And they work great. They just kind of elongate my season, give me a couple of extra weeks at the beginning and end of the season, so I've got flowers blooming before I normally would if they were outside. I think it also helped me keep water hyacinths all year, which would have normally died off, and I would have had to buy some fresh starts, but they made it through the winter, so they died off a lot. I only had little tiny ones, but now they're coming back, and this photo was from the other day. So this is my wildlife pond. This was from a few days ago. So now the whole area around it has been taken over by a garden. And it's quickly, like I said, it became one of the favorite places for everybody to congregate in the yard and hang out and socialize when anybody comes to visit. And I really like it. I love the flowers. And it's every year it gets better.
That was a video.
That's a video too. Apparently this is good.
Did you actually plant those flowers in there, or did they just kind of creep in?
Some of them have crept in, but most of that was planted. Even the ones that crept in were planted. The whatever that little clovery stuff is, came with, we got a bunch of stuff from somebody's yard, a bunch of plants, and it came with those plants. I'm not sure what it is.
They do like some gorilla shoveling, you just like,
It loves the water, and it'll grow across the pond. So it grows into the pond, and it's taken over.
This is a Pennywort family.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's something like that.
It is, it's in the Pennywort.
And this is Amazonian frogbit, which comes back for me every year. The hornwort comes back every year in that pond. I don't add anything to it anymore. These are Japanese lilies, or irises, I'm sorry. Purple irises. They already bloomed for the season. You can see the seed heads on them. I cut those up too. That's a lizard's tail. It gets little white flowers that curl over like a lizard's tail. It's a good bog plant. So I guess that's pretty much about it for my little presentation. If anybody has any questions on anything, I guess I'll cover real quick predators. The closer you can put your pond to your house, the less chance of predators you will have. And there are definitely products you can use, netting and things like that. There's also sprays, motion sensor sprays you hook up to your garden hose that if a crane or something lands there, it'll give them a good blast of water and they'll be out of there. And it doesn't hurt them, it just scares them. So non-lethal and good for your fish.
Question for you about the ponds that don't have any filtration on at all and don't get any rainwater, or do you only have filtration, or do you have filtration on all of them?
All the ones in the greenhouse have filtration, whether it's air or barrel. Some of them just run on air. Right, too.
So you don't do water changes at all on the outside ones as well?
I'll top them off if we have a long dry period where I'm losing a couple inches of water. But other than that, no. Anybody have any questions on pond?
Whenever you have, I don't do a lot of freshwater, so I don't know, if you have plants in the pond that won't overwinter, do you pull those up and bring them into the greenhouse, or do you
Yes.
bring them inside?
I'll bring them inside too, because I grow tropicals in the ponds and in the greenhouse. I have tanks set up in the greenhouse that I like to grow. Like I said, I like to grow out stuff, and then at the end of the season, I'll just rescape the whole tank. And I'll just have enough plants to sit down and do a full planted tank all at once.
what temperature does it get in your greenhouse? Like how overwinter can you do?
I don't have any kind of thermostat or anything in there. It doesn't stay, it's not a hothouse, so pretty much it only stays slightly above whatever the temperature is outside, especially when the sun's on it, you know?
Yeah.
But I keep it closed up in the winter, and it keeps that frost off of everything.
Huh.
So I think that's why the hyacinths made it, honestly, that normally would have died on me outside. I think that just enough to keep the frost off them was probably enough to get them through,
Yeah.
is my thought on that, because I didn't expect them to live.
Huh.
I didn't expect the frog picnic, it was crazy to live. That's from the Amazon. So it overwinters here, and it comes back. I'm pretty sure it'll probably end up on the invasive species list at one point for here because of that. But
I'll wait till the pond freezes over and I'll pull all the frog meat out at once and throw it in the other.
yeah, that's the other thing too. For the winter, when stuff is dying off, I try to remove as much vegetation, the dying vegetation, as I can, because that will give you an algae bloom. If you let everything die and stay in the pond, as soon as it warms up in the spring, you're going to have a mess of algae. So remove as much detritus as you can.
Do you have issues with diatoms whenever you're adding the place in that thick with capping it? Do you have a diatom bloom on?
I've never had one in any kind of ponds I've dealt with. I've gotten bacterial blooms before, but I can't pinpoint exactly why.
I think if you did it in a smaller pond, you might have an issue with it, but you put
300 gallons, yeah.
this much place in a 300 gallon with a ton of established bacteria, so it's probably eliminating those diatoms naturally. Whereas if you do it at a young barrel or something like that, like I see Mitch has been doing, he's been putting his little 20-gallon barrel. You did that pond, or that plant in that pond right there, you're gonna get a diatom explosion on that one for sure. So you just gotta kind of take it in context. See, that's a 300 gallon versus those little ones, yeah.
Do you ever have to defend off frogs, like tree frogs and stuff?
Tree frogs I don't worry about because they don't eat fish. My problem is American green frogs and American bullfrogs. Those are my nemesis. And yes, I go to war with them. I'll be sitting in the kitchen and I'll hear rip, and I gotta run outside with a flashlight and a net. So, but I've kind of given up on them because I've got so much. Well, I'm kind of rural where I am, so I'm not going to win the battle. So I just treat now every once in a while because they will give you worms. They will bring you parasites. So I've gotten anchor worms from frogs a couple times. So I just treat the ponds now.
Is there any insects you worry about? I know dragonfly larvae, but is there anything else?
I don't worry about them. I have plenty of them. My greenhouse is full of dragonflies. I've never noticed them be able to do enough damage that I'm not getting fish and shrimp still. When I caught some of the shabukins that I brought for JT, I noticed there's a dragonfly larva in the bucket with one of them. I mean, I have dragonflies everywhere. I just don't worry about it.
Don't they eat them?
Dragonflies?
Or the
Dragonfly
fish
larva-
eat the dragonfly larva.
Then you can beat it.
If they're big enough, the goldfish might peck at them, but like the guppies are a main concern on those guys. But they probably eat some fry, you know, but not enough to matter. I'm not breeding guppies on any kind of serious level. They're out there for rain control, mosquito control, and because I like it, you know. It's just something neat to, I like to walk around all the ponds and feed the fish and stroll around, and that's what I do when I get home from work and relax. Feed all the fish and check everything out, make sure everything's doing good. Anybody else got anything?
And when you bring the plants inside to your aquarium, you're concerned about parasites then?
I do have some leeches that have showed up in some of my ponds before, so I will do a bleach dip if I'm really worried about it, but I haven't actually treated anything, and I bring everything in, and I haven't had any problems. I rinse them off though. I will give them a good rinse under the sink, but I'm also not worried about snails. So also too, if you get any of the plants that are in those plastic containers on the left-hand side, you will have snails. That is a guarantee. You may also get goldfish eggs. You may also get cherry shrimp. There will definitely be snails, without a doubt. I like snails. Snails are part of what I use for my biological systems in my ponds. And when they get too much, I just start smashing them, and the fish eat them, and it's free fish food. And JT scoops them up and gets a bunch for his puffer to feed, and I have a couple other people that come by and scoop them up for their puffers and stuff. So they're great fish food, and they don't eat live plants if they have enough food source. So they will put some holes in your plants, so once in a while, but it's not the end of the world if you have enough plants. Anyone else? All right.
few things. If y'all don't know me, I'm Curtis. I'm going to be the co-chair of the BAP committee. We have our 5 other co-chairs. They don't know that yet, but they're going to all be co-chairs. If you'll stand up for us, it's me, Cassandra, Tia, Steve, and Juan. These are going to be basically, thank you guys for volunteering. Sit down. These are going to be the 5 people who basically take your submittals and just evaluate them. So after this meeting, we're going to all get together and we're going to go over a few things. We haven't released the final rules because there are a few details that the committee needs to kind of go over ourselves. Mitch did put on there the breeder form. So if you are breeding fish and you want to just print it out, I'm going to go old-fashioned as can be on this. Print out the form, fill it out, and you actually have to bring it to the meetings in order to submit them. This is not going to be an online thing. If you're not a member of this fish club here, then there's no sense in being a BAP. Congratulations to so-and-so who we've never seen before. So this is going to be a here thing. This is going to be, you show up here, you're going to get recognized. We're going to do the BAP for members. I can look around now and see faces and tell you names of the people who are showing up to these meetings every time. And this is our fish club. We have 700 members online, but there are people from Colorado and other places like that. So that's going to be the one thing about the BAP. You're going to physically have to come in and hand us your sheet, and we're going to, like I said, these 5 people, including myself, are going to review them and everything like that. And that's going to be our BAP committee. So I look forward to people starting to submit some stuff and get some points, and we'll go over kind of going forward, like what the benefits are. That's some of the stuff we're going to work on together. So, all right, so that's the BAP. Now I'm going to hook this up, I suppose. All right, so I am going to discuss the benefits of rain barrels. It's kind of on the line of summer tubbing. I don't know how to get that rascal started. So I'll talk about he messes with that. So on the lines of summer tubbing, I summer tub with rain barrels, just like. Perfect. All right, so I have lots of summer tubs too. Jason and I, that's how we kind of first met. We were, summer tubbing, talking about all our different stuff. And so one of the things that I do is I do them in rain barrels, and I do it in rain barrels for quite a few reasons actually. So. I do it, rain barrels are there for not only pretty plants, but you get really nice water out of it, and you get to keep fishing in another place. Yay for us. So that's why I've started doing this. So these are pictures of 2 of my rain barrels that I have. The one on the right is at my shop in full sun. I put like one of those hyacinths in there last year, and that's what it turned into by the end of the summer. And then that's my lily that's now in my pond, and it just, it came out of there. It just exploded. And there are goldfish in there too. So, some of why do a rain barrel? There's quite a bit. One, like I said, is to conserve water. You can use all the water that comes in your rain barrel to feed your plants. If you keep a goldfish in there, just simply 1 or 2 goldfish, depending on if you have a 55 or a 30-gallon drum. All the food falls down to the bottom, and you've got a drain on the bottom, and that's going to be all your nutrients for your plants. So that's one way to conserve water. The second thing is to create a mosquito sink. If you don't really know what a mosquito sink, what would that be? It's just like when you have a tire sitting there with a bunch of water in it. Mosquitoes come to that and lay their eggs because they know that a stagnant of water that they don't have to worry about predators getting their babies, so they lay all of their eggs. A female mosquito only has so many eggs in her. She doesn't have an endless supply of eggs. That's just not how it works. She has 30, 60, 90, 120 eggs, whatever her number of eggs are. So she deposits them thinking, hey, I've got a safe spot. So there's your sink. So what happens in the beginning of the season, you have essentially 5 generations of mosquitoes. The first generation is the movers and the shakers. They come from everywhere and they fly as far as possible to get to your home. And then what they do after that long journey, after they feed on us, is they go lay their eggs in us where they want their second, third, and fourth, and fifth generation to succeed. So they lay them in your rain barrel, thinking, aha, success. Your fish eat them, aha, no more success. So your second, third, and fourth generation of mosquitoes in your yard, if you use this as your sink, will diminish significantly. My wife is one of their favorite flavors. So she, in the beginning of the season, she's always like, you have to spray, you have to spray, you have to spray. You probably, if you have that kind of problem, you may have to spray. But after the first generation, she doesn't complain about it anymore. 1 or 2 mosquitoes come in our area because they think that that rain barrel, this is on the side of my house, put it a little farther away from where your wife goes and has her coffee in the morning. Put it on the side of your house, it comes off of your, and they think, oh, this is a great place for me to lay all my eggs, and it eliminates a lot of population. So that's one of the things that people don't think about as mosquito sinks. If you don't use that, you can just take a bucket and dump it. Like I said, it's a chance to raise fish outside. Jason obviously keeps his in a big pond. I keep mine in different barrels and also this as well. And it's a creative way to grow plants outside, as you can see on my...
I keep them in barrels, dude.
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, I would not expect anything else. So, the supplies. This is what made me run outside when Steve asked about like the dragonflies and stuff. So my supplies are a crate. You don't have to use a crate, but if you want to elevate your lilies, if you're going to put lilies in there, or if you want to put water hyacinth or something like that, you can stack milk crates in there for the height in your barrel. You would need plants. You need a water drum. You need a drain line, which is the top overspill, and then you can put one on the bottom too, which has just a hose on it with a cap. Pots and soil, a crate, and then netting. So the netting that I use is twofold. I have lots of pine trees in my area, and all the pine needles get in my pond, and it kills all my fish. So I net it, and then also it prevents your dragonfly from getting in there, because they will not go through. So what netting do I use? My kids had a trampoline, they tore the net, and I took their net and cut it all to pieces. And since I've done that, I've probably seen 60 of them on the side. And anybody throws out a trampoline, don't be afraid to go, trash and digging and grabbing that. Just cut up a nice swatch. I've got several of them sitting there. I cover my ponds whenever the leaf season comes. So that's what I use that for. And so that's your supplies. I went over a mosquito sink, and it just says what it is, how an open body of water draws them to lay their eggs, and goes over all that as well. So the fishes that you can use. I personally use goldfish. I've tried mollies. I've tried native mollies.